The Brooklyn Elementary auditorium buzzed with the joyful chaos of the annual fundraiser. Crayon drawings, children darting between legs like bright fish in a stream. At the center of it all stood Emma Hartley, 25 years old and already the kind of teacher students remembered for the rest of their lives. Her auburn hair was pulled into a loose braid that had begun to unravel from the morning's hugs and high fives. She wore a simple yellow sundress that caught the afternoon light filtering through the high windows, making her look like she belonged among the sunflowers on the art table. She knelt in a circle of second graders, helping them tie ribbons around small bouquets for the guest of honor ceremony. Her emerald eyes sparkled as she praised each child's effort. "Lily, this rose is perfect," she said, tucking a stray petal behind the little girl's ear. "You have the gentlest hands." Lily beamed, clutching her flower-like treasure. Around Emma the air smelled of fresh lilies, sugar cookies, and childhood itself. She was surrounded by tiny voices and sticky fingers, and she looked utterly content, radiant in a way that had nothing to do with makeup or expensive clothes. Marcus Castellano arrived 20 minutes late. He entered through the side door, shoulders squared inside a charcoal suit that cost more than most teachers earned in a month. At 32 he already carried the weight of an empire on his back. Castellano Enterprises, real estate, venture capital, a name that made boardrooms fall silent. Tall, dark-haired, sharp-jawed, with eyes the color of winter ocean. He was handsome in the way statues are handsome. Beautiful, distant, untouchable. He had come because his PR team insisted on community visibility. He planned to stay 15 minutes, write a check, and leave. Then he saw her. Emma was laughing, head thrown back, the sound clear and unguarded, as a boy named Tommy proudly presented her with a daisy chain he'd made from the extras. She slipped it over her head like a crown, hugged him fiercely, and kissed the top of his head. The children swarmed her, tugging at her dress, offering more flowers, more drawings, more of themselves. She accepted every gift as if it were priceless. Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. Sharp, sudden, irreversible. He had spent his life surrounded by people who wanted something from him. Money, power, status, favors. No one had ever looked at him the way Emma looked at those children. With pure, uncomplicated delight. No one had ever made him feel small and enormous at the same time. The ceremony began. Each class presented a bouquet to the guest of honor. When it was time for the second graders, Lily marched forward, pigtails bouncing, holding out a single perfect red rose. "For you, Mr. Castellano," she said solemnly. "Because you're important." Marcus took the flower automatically. His fingers closed around the stem. Then, without conscious decision, he looked across the room at Emma. She was watching, head tilted, a small, curious smile playing on her lips. He moved before he could think better of it. The auditorium quieted as he walked straight to her. Children parted like water. He stopped in front of her, extended the rose she had helped Lily arrange, and spoke in a voice so low only she could hear. "This belongs to someone who actually deserves it." Emma's breath caught. Her eyes widened. Shock, confusion, a flicker of something warmer. The children stared, wide-eyed. Parents whispered. Her fingers hesitated, then brushed his as she accepted the flower. The brief contact sent electricity racing up his arm. "Thank you," she murmured, cheeks flushing pink. Marcus couldn't speak. He simply nodded once, turned, and walked out of the auditorium before anyone could see the way his hands shook. Outside, rain had begun to fall. He stood under the overhang, staring at the wet pavement, heart pounding so hard it hurt. He had just met the woman he would spend the rest of his life trying to deserve. And she had no idea. The days after the fundraiser became a quiet torment for Marcus Castellano. He sat in his glass-walled office high above Manhattan, the city sprawling beneath him like a conquered kingdom. Yet he felt smaller than ever. Emma Hartley occupied every unoccupied corner of his mind, her auburn hair catching sunlight among the children, her emerald eyes widening in surprise when she accepted the rose, the brief warmth of her fingers against his. It was irrational, this fixation. He had dated women whose beauty was calculated, whose affection came with contracts and expectations. Emma was different. She was unguarded joy in a world of masks, and that unguardedness terrified him as much as it drew him. He tried to bury it at first meetings, acquisitions, late-night strategy sessions, anything to drown the ache. But at 3 a.m., when the city quieted, her face returned. He found himself searching her name online. Photos from school events, a local article praising her innovative reading program, a candid shot of her laughing with students in a playground of falling leaves. Each image tightened the knot in his chest. He loved her. Not desire, not possession, love, the kind that made breathing hurt when she wasn't near. He began small, telling himself it was harmless. A delivery arrived at Brooklyn Elementary the following Monday. 24 pale pink peonies. Her favorite according to a discreet inquiry. With a simple card, for the woman who makes ordinary days beautiful. No signature. Emma stared at the flowers on her desk during lunch, fingers tracing the petals. A student asked if they were from her boyfriend. She laughed too quickly, cheeks flushing, and said no, but she kept them. The next week, an invitation came, embossed, elegant, dinner at Le Bernardin, the best table, his name discreetly attached. Her response was polite, typed, final, thank you for the kind gesture, Mr. Castellano, but I must decline. My focus is my students and my family. Rejection should have ended it. Instead, it fueled him. He donated a six-figure sum to the school's library fund, securing a seat on the advisory board. At the first meeting, he lingered in the hallway afterward, waiting until the others left. When Emma emerged, arms full of lesson plan binders, he stepped into her path. Miss Hartley, he said, voice softer than he intended, I'd like to discuss expanding the literacy program. Over coffee, perhaps? Quote, she stopped, gaze steady but guarded. Mr. Castellano, I appreciate your generosity, truly, but this feels personal, and I'm not interested in anything beyond professional courtesy. His pulse thundered in his ears. One coffee, no expectations. Expectations are already there, she replied quietly. You look at me like I'm a puzzle you need to solve. I'm not. I'm just a teacher trying to live a simple life. She walked past him, leaving the scent of her vanilla shampoo lingering like an accusation. He sent more gifts. A rare first edition of her favorite children's book. Tickets to a Broadway show she'd once mentioned in a staff newsletter. Each returned with a note. Please stop. This isn't welcome. The refusals carved deeper, turning longing into desperation, then into something darker. One rainy afternoon he waited by her car after dismissal. Umbrella forgotten, water soaking his coat. When she appeared, he stepped forward. Emma, please. One conversation. I can't stop thinking about you. You're the only real thing I've felt in years. Rain streaked her face, mingling with sudden, frustrated tears. Why me? You have everything. I have nothing to offer someone like you. You have everything I don't, he said. Voice breaking. Kindness. Light. Hope. I love you. Let me show you I'm not the monster the world thinks I am. She shook her head, stepping back. Love doesn't force its way in, Marcus. It waits to be invited. And right now, I'm not inviting you anywhere. She got into her car and drove away, leaving him standing in the downpour. Fists clenched, heart fracturing. That night, alone in his penthouse, he opened the file his investigator had prepared. Her father's debts, the loan sharks circling. He stared at the numbers until they blurred. If she wouldn't choose him, he would create a path where she had no choice but to see him. It was wrong. He knew it, but the thought of never having her hurt more than any sin ever could. He picked up the phone. Buy the debt, he told his lawyer. All of it. The line went quiet for a beat. Are you sure, sir? Quote. Marcus closed his eyes, picturing her face one last time. I've never been more sure of anything. Rain lashed the windows of Emma's small Brooklyn apartment the night her father came to her door. He 20 years older. Shoulders hunched, eyes hollow, hands trembling as he clutched a thick envelope. He whispered, voice cracking. I've ruined us. The papers inside were merciless. Loan documents, sky-high interest, threats of foreclosure and jail. At the bottom, in fresh ink, Marcus Castellano now owned every cent. Emma's stomach plummeted. He bought them? Quote. Her father nodded, tears falling. His lawyer called. The debt disappears. If you marry him, 1 year. After that, everything cleared. Otherwise. Quote. Rage, terror, helplessness crashed over her. She had no choice. The next morning she stormed his penthouse. He stood by the windows, pale, waiting. You blackmailed my family, she hissed. You used my father's mistakes to trap me. I tried every other way, Marcus said quietly. You kept refusing. I couldn't lose you forever. I love you, Emma. Since that rose. This is wrong. I know, but it's the only way I could keep you close long enough to see I'm not what you think. You're exactly what I think, she whispered. A man who thinks love is ownership. The wedding came 2 weeks later. Private chapel. No guests except her father and lawyers. She walked alone in a plain ivory gown, clutching white roses like thorns. Marcus waited at the altar, eyes never leaving her. When she reached him he whispered, I'm sorry. She didn't answer. Vows were cold, mechanical. Her I do, barely audible. The ring felt like iron. The kiss was brief, obligatory. They flew straight to his Adirondack cabin. Emma locked herself in the guest room on arrival. Marcus knocked once each evening. Dinner's ready, or I can leave it outside. Silence answered. On the third night a blizzard struck. Power died. Darkness swallowed everything. Emma's childhood fear roared back. Nights alone after her mother died. Waiting for a father who gambled away hours. She curled tight, breaths coming too fast, small whimpers escaping. A gust slammed the windows. She cried out in terror. The door opened. Marcus entered with a flashlight, moving slowly. I heard you, he said softly. I won't come closer unless you want me to. Another howl of wind. Panic overtook her. She reached blindly into the dark. Marcus was there in an instant. She threw herself against him. He caught her, arms closing protectively. She buried her face in his chest, fingers clutching his shirt, body shaking violently. I've got you, he murmured, voice thick. You're safe. I'm right here. I won't let anything hurt you. He wrapped her in blankets, held her close, one hand stroking her hair in slow, soothing strokes. She clung harder, cheek pressed to his heartbeat, warmth seeping through her fear despite everything. They stayed locked together, her stuck to him, trembling easing, breath slowly sinking, for long minutes in the black. When lights flickered back on, they were still entwined, her face against his chest, his chin resting on her head. For one aching heartbeat neither moved. Their eyes met, his raw with tenderness and guilt, hers wide, confused, a flicker of something unguarded. She slowly loosened her grip, slid back, cheeks burning, avoiding his gaze. Marcus released her carefully, voice hoarse. Thank you, for letting me hold you, even if just for a minute. She whispered, Don't say anything else tonight. He nodded, stood, and left the room without another word. But the echo of his heartbeat against her ear lingered long after the door closed. The first real fracture in Emma's walls came with fire. It started as an ordinary after-school afternoon. Emma stayed late to help with the art club. Children painting autumn leaves. Laughter echoing off cinderblock walls. Then the old wiring sparked. Alarms shrieked. Smoke poured thick and black through the halls. 2 second graders had wandered into the supply closet chasing a runaway paint roller. They were still inside. Emma didn't think. She ran. Smoke burned her eyes, her throat. She dropped to her knees, crawling, calling their names. Sophie, Jamal, it's Miss Hartley. Follow my voice. Her dress caught on a shelf. She tore free, heart slamming. She found them huddled in the corner. Coughing, terrified, she scooped Sophie into her arms, pulled Jamal by the hand, and staggered back toward the exit. Flames licked the ceiling behind them. She burst through the doors into fresh air just as firefighters arrived. She collapsed on the grass, children safe in her lap, coughing violently. Parents rushed forward, sirens wailed, cameras flashed. Across town, Marcus's phone lit up with breaking news alerts. Fire at Brooklyn Elementary. A live feed showed smoke billowing. Children crying. Then, Emma emerging. Soot-streaked, cradling 2 small bodies. His heart stopped. He was out of the boardroom in seconds. Shoving past assistants. Sprinting to his car. The drive was a blur. Red lights ignored. Horn blaring. When he arrived, the scene was chaos. He pushed through the crowd, eyes wild, until he saw her, sitting on a stretcher, oxygen mask pressed to her face. Paramedics checking her vitals. Emma, quote, she looked up. For a split second, surprise softened her expression. Then she remembered. She looked away. Marcus dropped to his knees beside her anyway. Are you hurt? God. Emma, tell me you're okay. I'm fine, she rasped through the mask. The kids are safe. That's all that matters. He reached for her hand, hesitated, then took it gently when she didn't pull away. His fingers shook. You could have died. I'd do it again, she said simply. His eyes filled. You're the bravest person I've ever known. And I don't deserve to even stand here. She didn't answer. But she didn't let go of his hand until the paramedics moved her to the ambulance. That night, back at the penthouse, she still refused to call it home. Marcus drew her a bath without asking. He added lavender oil, left fresh towels, then retreated. When she emerged in a robe, hair damp, he was waiting in the living room with tea. She sat across from him, far enough to keep distance. Close enough that he could see the exhaustion etched into her face. I was terrified today, he said quietly. Not just for the children. For you. The thought of a world without you in it. His voice broke. I know I forced this marriage. I know I broke your trust before it even began. But seeing you walk out of that smoke today, I realized I'd give up everything I own just to keep you safe. Emma stared into her tea. You say things like that, and part of me wants to believe you. But then I remember how we got here. The papers, the threats, the ring on my finger that still feels like a handcuff. He nodded, eyes downcast. I know, and I hate myself for it every day. Silence stretched. Then she spoke, softer. When the smoke was thickest, I thought about you, just for a second. That you'd be devastated if something happened to me. It surprised me, how much that thought hurt. Marcus looked up, hope and pain warring in his gaze. She set the tea down. I'm not saying I forgive you. Not yet, but, thank you for being there today. For not hovering. For giving me space even when you wanted to hold on. He swallowed hard. I'll keep giving you space. As much as you need. She stood. Before she left the room, she paused, Marcus? Quote, yes? Quote, don't stop saying you're sorry. Not because I want to punish you, but because I need to hear that you understand what you did. He nodded, throat tight. I do, and I will, every day. She walked away, but for the first time, she didn't close the door all the way behind her. Spring returned to Brooklyn like a fragile promise. Cherry blossoms drifting past school windows. Children laughing in the garden. Emma Hartley stood at the edge of the playground, watching petals fall. The dried daisy chain from that first day still tucked in her pocket like a secret she wasn't ready to release. Marcus Castellano arrived without warning that afternoon. He waited at the gate until she noticed him. Hands empty, eyes carrying the weight of every mistake he'd made. When she looked up, he didn't smile. He simply stood there, waiting for permission he no longer assumed he had. The children ran to him anyway. Lily hugging his legs, Tommy asking about the rose. Marcus knelt, voice gentle, answering each question as though it mattered more than any boardroom deal ever had. Emma watched from the bench, heart twisting in ways she could no longer deny. That evening on the penthouse balcony, city lights glittering like scattered hope, Marcus set two simple plates between them. Pasta, basil from the rooftop garden he'd planted because she once said the scent felt like home. No grand gestures, just quiet. He spoke first, voice low and raw. I paid your father's last debts, he said. No strings. Divorce papers are signed and waiting in the safe. You can leave at dawn. Walk away. I won't stop you. I'll let you go, even if it rips me apart. Emma's fork fell. Tears came instantly, hot and unstoppable. She stared at him, saw the tremor in his jaw, the way he looked at the skyline so she wouldn't see him shatter. Why now? She choked. Because I love you, he said, voice breaking. Not the version I tried to own. The real you, the one who runs into fire, who teaches children they matter, who kept that daisy chain even when I gave you every reason to burn it. I love you enough to lose you if staying means you'll never feel free again. A sob tore from her throat. She stood, walked around the table, stopped inches away. Marcus rose slowly, hands at his sides, not reaching, not daring. I hated you, she whispered, voice fracturing. Every morning that ring felt like chains. I hated how you looked at me like I was sacred. Because sacred things aren't bought. They're chosen. He nodded, accepting every word like a wound he deserved. But then, she continued, tears streaming. The fire happened. You ran to me. You cried in the dirt because I was breathing. You held me in the dark without asking for more. You planted basil so I could wake to something beautiful. You kept showing up, not to possess me, but to protect what was left of me. And somewhere between the smoke and the silence, I fell in love with the man who learned how to wait. The man who would rather die alone than hurt me again. Her hand rose, shaking, cupped his face. His eyes closed, tears slipped free. I'm terrified, she said. Terrified of trusting, terrified of loving someone who once broke me. But I'm more terrified of walking away and carrying this ache forever. Of wondering what we could have been if I'd only said yes when I finally could. She stepped closer. His breath hitched. I choose you, she whispered, voice cracking open. Not because I'm trapped, because every scared, scarred, healing part of me still wants you. I love you, Marcus, and it hurts so much. But it hurts less than living without you. Marcus made a shattered sound, half sob, half prayer, and pulled her close. His body shook violently against hers, forehead to hers, tears mingling, breaths ragged. I don't deserve this, he choked, but I'll spend every heartbeat proving I can try. The next morning, as they drove back from a quiet breakfast, rain slicked the streets. A delivery truck swerved suddenly, tires screeching, metal screaming. Marcus yanked the wheel hard. shielding her with his body as the car spun, slammed the curb, airbags exploding. When the world stopped, silence rang. Emma's hands flew to him, blood on his temple, eyes closed. Marcus! Her scream ripped through her. No, 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 open your eyes. Quote, he groaned, lids fluttering. Emma, you okay? Quote, she sobbed, fingers pressing his wound, shaking uncontrollably. Don't you dare leave me. Not now, not when I just found you. He lifted a trembling hand, cupped her face. I'm here, I'm not going anywhere. She collapsed against him, tears soaking his shirt. I can't lose you. I love you. I love you so much it hurts. Don't ever scare me like that again. Marcus pulled her closer despite the pain. Voice hoarse. I won't, I promise. I'm yours. Completely. Forever. Sirens wailed in the distance. But in that wrecked car, two hearts, once forced, once broken, finally beat as one, choosing each other through blood, tears, and unbreakable longing. Weeks later, in the school garden, petals falling, children cheering, they renewed their vows. Emma slipped the daisy chain around his neck. For the man who waited, and almost died proving he'd never leave. Marcus touched it, tears falling freely. For the woman who taught me love isn't taken. It's chosen, every single day. And under falling blossoms, they kissed, not as prisoners, but as people who had walked through fire and finally found home in each other.